There being a quorum present and having been advised by the town clerk that the warrant has been properly served, this town meeting of Plympton is now open. I'm your moderator, Barry DiCristofano, 198 Main Street. I thank you for coming tonight. I'll briefly go over how tonight's meeting will run. So I will accept a motion to move an article as we work our way through the warrant. That gets second, and once an article is motioned and seconded, it's open for discussion. If you have something to say, a comment or a question about any of the articles, you'll come to this microphone in the center, wait to be recognized by the moderator, and then you'll have 3 minutes to say whatever you want to say or ask whatever you want to say. Everybody who wants to speak will get a chance to speak, always. Anyone who wants to speak a second time to a question will have to wait until everybody's had a chance first to do something. And if you're going to speak a second time, it needs to be for a different point that you want to make, not just rehashing what you said before. So we're going to do that. And then we'll take a vote when all the discussion's over. At this moment, I'd ask everyone to please rise and observe a moment of silence for those Plympton neighbors of ours who have passed away since our last town meeting, especially Rita LaPointe and Don Vautrinot. Thank you, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. I guess one other thing I wanted to say about if you do come up to the microphone, all your comments and questions will be directed to the moderator, directed to me, and I will direct them where they need to go to the right person to answer. There'll be no side conversations between folks going on here. I'm not going to have that. Things get out of control that way. I'd like to thank the Dennett principal, Peter Veneto, and all the custodial staff for setting up the room tonight. Tonight we'll be holding both our annual town meeting and a special town meeting. The annual town meeting addresses the coming fiscal year, 2027 fiscal year, which starts on July 1. Then at or a bit after 8 o'clock, we'll recess the annual town meeting and begin a special town meeting. The special town meeting addresses funding issues in this year's spending, fiscal 2026. So these are things that have to get taken care of before June rolls around. And there's only 2 articles, and when that's done, we'll go back into our annual town meeting. You should have all received a copy of the town meeting warrant or picked in the mail or picked one up when you checked in, and I hope you've had a chance to review it. Tonight's meeting is being taped for broadcast by Area 58 Community Access Media. Please silence your cell phones, and I'll wait a couple of minutes so you can take them out and check them. Thank you. Bang on them, tap on them, make sure they don't make noises, please. Okay, present tonight, on your right, we have the Board of Selectmen. Nate Sides, Chairman Dana Smith. Next to them is our Town Administrator, Robert Fennessy. And then 2 folks from Town Council tonight, Abby Solar and Greg Corbo, our Town Clerk, Tara Shaw, right to my left. On your left, my right, is the Finance Committee. Marilyn Brown, Chairperson, Catherine Shepard, Mike Lemieux, Dan Cadigan, Steve Lewis, I did that again, Steve Lewis, Dan Cadigan, and at the end, last but not least, is our Town Accountant, Lisa Hart. The tellers and counters for the evening will be Nancy Magnuson and Madeline Pompey. Our peace officer tonight is Officer Patrick Reed. Several of our town officials are not residents of Plympton, and as such, they need your permission to address the assembly if required. So I will entertain a motion that will allow the following individuals to participate tonight if and when appropriate. Town Administrator Robert Fennessy, Town Council Greg Corbeau and Abby Scalar, Town Treasurer, I don't think she's here though, Christine Kelly, just can't hurt, Police Chief Matthew All, Administrative Assessor Allison Murray, and from the Silver Lake Regional Schools, Superintendent Jill Prue. And I thought I said Assistant Assessor. Oh, Holly Murray. I said Allison Murray, sorry. Oh, okay. Do I have a motion to allow those people to speak if required? And the second? Any discussion? All in favor, please say, please raise your little card there. Down, opposed? Unanimous, passes unanimous. Are there any other people in the audience who are not registered voters of Plympton? Okay, because if you're not, you need to be in this front row. And that includes all the officers in the back. If you're not a resident of Plympton and you're not the peace officer assigned here, you can't hang out. You got to come up front. Okay. So I welcome you to town meeting. I ask you to sit in the front row. Procedural rules, I already went through that with the microphone. After being recognized by me, please state your name and your full street address before you begin your comment or questions. This helps us to get to know each other better. All comments come through the moderator. 3 minutes, and I went through that. So if there's anybody proposing any substantial amendments, like wordy amendments to an article, they're going to need to be submitted up here in writing for the town clerk. And finally, we come here as friends and neighbors. We'll still be neighbors when we leave tonight, so let's still be friends. With civility and respect for all speakers, we can maintain our strong Plympton community. On to Article 1. Article 1, to hear reports of the town officers and act thereon, and to receive and act upon reports of any committees and give authority or instructions or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
I move the article as printed in the warrant.
A second?
Second.
Are there any reports to be presented by any of the committees that haven't done so already? Any discussion about this article? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 1 as printed and moved, please raise your card. Down? Opposed? Unanimous. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to authorize the town treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreements for FY 2027 as permitted by and in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F, or take any other action relative thereto.
I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Article's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 2, please raise your card. Down cards, opposed? Unanimous. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to amend the wage and personnel classification plan effective July 1, 2026, and to pay as wages the following sums or take any other action relative thereto. So what I will do is I will read down the positions, and you'll be looking at the two columns on the far right, the proposed bottom and proposed top range. If anyone has a question about one of those, call out hold, and we'll take that up when we get to the end of the department section. Yes. Oh, we need a motion for Article 3, I'm sorry.
Mr. Moderator, move the article as printed in the warrant.
Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you for putting that out. Under the Highway Department, Highway Superintendent, Working Foreman, Motor Equipment Repairman, Equipment Operator, Truck Driver / Laborer. No holds. Clerical election workers, senior clerk/warden, constable. And again, here on this page, even though we don't have the headings, it's the two far right-hand columns that you're considering. Elder Affairs, Director of Elder Affairs, senior aide. Library, library director, senior library technician, circulation assistant. Police other, special police officer, police matron. Professional, land use coordinator, assistant assessor, administrative assessor, health agent, conservation agent. Town hall support, assistant town accountant, assistant town clerk, assistant treasurer collector, administrative assistant, senior clerk, and clerk. Town labor, senior disposal attendant, town custodian, laborer. Veteran affairs, veterans agent, a stipend. Seeing that everybody's good with those amounts, all those in favor of Article 3 as printed in the warrant, please raise your cards. Down cards. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 4, to see if the town will fix the compensation of elected officers and to see what sums of money the town will raise and appropriate, including appropriations from available funds, or borrow to defray charges and expenses of the town, including debt and interest for the ensuing year, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
I move the article as printed in the warrant.
And a second?
Second.
Article's been moved and second, and tonight, before we get into the lines, the Board of Selectmen have a statement they would like to read to you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Nathaniel Side, 68 Winnetoxet Road. On behalf of the town accountants, town administrator. I know I picked the wrong chair. You want to come to the podium? No. Thank you. Nathaniel Side, 68 Winnetoxet Road. On behalf of the town accountant, town administrator, finance committee, and the Board of Selectmen, I'd like to offer some comments prior to the town considering Article 4, which is the town budget. Generally speaking, when organizations begin preparing a budget, there are two common approaches to look at first: level funding and level service. Most years, Plympton officials use the level service approach, which means that services such as police and fire are kept at current levels, but not expanded. No new programs or spending are implemented unless mandated by law or other extraordinary circumstances. Once again, we use this approach for fiscal 2027 budget that's before you this evening. Thanks go to the various department and committee leaders for their cooperation in understanding the very real financial difficulties we are facing. As you will hear later, certain departments such as Silver Lake are experiencing some staff reductions and service cuts as a result of the financial pressures. There are several warrant articles being presented this year, the majority of which are designated to be funded from free cash and stabilization funds, and as such will not impact your tax rate. Utilization of stabilization funds, although not our preferred funding method, is necessary for fiscal 27 in order to meet the needs of the town and ensure continuation of services without a Proposition 2.5 override. Since Proposition 2.5 was enacted in 1982, Massachusetts cities and towns have been limited to a 2.5% increase in their available tax levy each year. However, the cost of living increase has exceeded 2.5% in that same time frame. It's been averaging around 2.84% in those 40 some odd years. That means that each year we fall a little bit further and further behind, just keeping pace with inflation, with no easy way to play catch up. The level service budget we are presenting tonight takes Plympton to our legally permissible levy limit. If we go above that, our tax rate, setting by the Department of Revenue, is in jeopardy. Those property tax dollars represent over 70% of the total funds the town depends on. If it is determined tonight at town meeting that one or more budget items need to be increased, other than those that have a specified source, such as free cash or stabilization account, then a different line item will need to be reduced to keep us within our statutory limit. This issue of increasing financial pressure is not unique to Plympton, but rather is a statewide problem that many towns are facing. Almost half the cities and towns in the state are seeking some sort of relief from Proposition 2.5 this year in the form of an override. Through the hard work of our accountant, administrator, and finance committee, Plympton is not one of these towns. We have made the difficult decision to utilize our stabilization or rainy day fund to balance this year's budget. You will be presented a recommendation to use some $850,000 of that fund this year. It should be noted that this amount is not due to any one department spending, but rather the cumulative amount needed to balance the budget. Unfortunately, that is something of a one-time fix. We simply cannot afford to do this next year. For next year, there is a very real possibility of needing a Prop 2.5 override unless overall fiscal conditions and/or state aid change for the better. And as a result of needing that utilization of stabilization funds, Article 4 will require a 2/3 vote. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sides. If I don't hold this mic, can you folks hear me okay? Okay, great, thank you. All right, so because of what was just said about this year's budget getting covered partially with our general stabilization fund, we're going to do it similarly to the way we've done it every year, but with a little twist. I'll go through each section of the budget as I normally do. I'll read the line number and the recommended funding amount from the Finance Committee. And I'll read down one section at a time. If anybody wants to discuss one of those lines, call out hold. I'll continue through the section, and then when we get to the end of that, we'll go back and try to clear that hold, see what the issue is there. And I'll do that for each section, but we won't be voting on each section like we normally do. We'll go through the entire 4-page budget, clear any holds we need to clear. Then when we get to the end, we'll be voting on the total amount, which in this case in the recommended budget is $16 million and change. And we'll be voting on that coming from this amount from raise and appropriate, this amount free cash, this amount from general stabilization. And because all that funding is lumped into one, and it has one component that requires 2/3, we'll need a 2/3 vote on that whole budget. Does anybody have a question about that? I mean, I'll explain it again later if you need me to, but that's the general idea here tonight. Okay, great. On we go. It's Article 4. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. For the first section, insurance and pension. Insurance premiums, $180,000. County pension, $947,672. Group health, $675,000. Medicare, $110,000. Unemployment, $1,000. No holds. Next section, general government. Reserved, $700. Board of Appeals, $3,150. Conservation Commission.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I think you're off by a line.
Oh, the reserved is an empty line. Thank you for pointing that out. There was no zero, and I made an assumption. Reserved was 0. Board of Appeals, $700. Conservation Commission, $3,150. Conservation Agent, $38,117. Open Space, $2,000. Web and IT Services, $7,637. Council on Aging, $7,397. COA Director Stipend, $26,321. COA support staff, $34,874. Finance Committee, $1,500. Historical Commission, $250. Moderator salary, $200. Planning Board, $5,000. Recreation Committee, $15,000. No holds. Assessors section. Assessors salaries, $3. Assistant Assessor, $43,438. Certification compensation, $1,000. Assessor support staff, $24,438. Assessors training, $8,146. And assessors expense, $27,670. No holds. We'll move on to the town clerk section. Town clerk salary, $61,295. Certification compensation, $1,000. Town clerk support staff, $32,668. Town clerk expense, $7,837. Election and registration, $9,184. Election support staff, $17,990. And election town clerk stipend, $3,000. We have a hold on line 197. So whoever made the hold, please come to the microphone. Step up and be heard. Name and address, please.
Mark Wallace, 98 Mayflower Road. I'd just like to know what that amounts to. I mean, it's a big raise.
Thank you. The question is, why did it jump up so much? Would you like to take that?
We have 3 elections in the fiscal year 27. There'll be the September, November, and May. So it's 3 times the amount of what we normally have for one local.
Thank you.
Any other questions about that hold? Okay, so let me just say it again now. Election support staff, $17,000. I'm sorry, $17,990. Thank you. Okay, that clears that section. Next section is accountant, tax, and treasurer. Line 200, accountant, auditor contract, $69,381. Reserved, 0. Accountant expenses, $7,500. Treasurer tax collector contract, $92,088. Certification compensation, $1,000. Treasurer support staff, $46,083. And treasurer tax collector expenses, $43,120. No holds. Clears that section. Next section for the Board of Selectmen. Selectman stipend, $3. Executive assistant contract, $46,788. Selectmen expenses, $9,750. Town administrator contract, $148,400. Town administrator expenses, $5,300. Computer and technology maintenance, $36,000. Memorial Day, $625. Town buildings, $7,000. Building supplies, $6,500. Town custodial services, $30,797. Facilities contractual stipend, $6,500. Town council, $90,000. Town reports, $1,200. No holds. We move on to the Board of Health section. Health stipend, $3. Health support staff, $51,748. Health expenses, $3,140. There's that section, no holds. Public Works. Highway superintendent, $98,669. Public Works administrative assistant, $23,808. Highway, Parks, Grounds labor, $274,582. General Highway, $105,390. Equipment and Maintenance, $8,000. Cemetery Department, $3,515. Reserve, nothing. Snow and Ice, $75,000. Transfer Station, $139,475. Transfer Station Staff, $63,108. No holds. We'll move on to Protection of Personal Property, starting with line 340. Excuse me just a moment. Line 340, Animal Inspector, $3,800. Animal Control Officer, PD, $5,000. Reserved, nothing. Tree Warden salary, $12,600. Tree Warden expense, $11,890. And PWS well monitoring, $10,000. No holds, we clear that section. Building Department section. Building Inspector, $24,693. Department Administrative Assistant, $43,445. Plumbing and Gas Inspector, $12,000. Wiring Inspector, $18,000. Zoning Enforcement, $22,294, and Department Expenses, $1,800. No holds. Move on to Total Fire and EMS Services section. Line 500, Fire Chief Contract, $135,270. Fire Clerical Assistant, $12,815. Fire EMS Expenses, $75,000. EMS Medical Supplies, $20,000. Fire EMS Salaries, $991,000. Fire EMS Equipment and Repair, $22,000. Fire Vehicle Fuel and Maintenance, $58,000. No holds. Police Services, line 550, Police Chief Contract, $141,065. Police Salaries, $1,353,349. Police Administrative Assistant Executive Information Coordinator, $56,518. Lead, $2,500. Police Services Expenses, $118,277. Motor Vehicles, $61,720. And Mandatory Practical Trainings, $34,676. No holds. Town Utilities. Line 567, Pound Fiber, VOIP, and Police Department Building Utilities, $67,830. Townhouse Library, Old Townhouse Utilities, $63,000. Fire Building Utilities, $22,000. No holds. Emergency Dispatch Services, $205,000. No holds. We'll go to the Veterans section now. Line 600, Veterans Agent at the bottom of the page, $10,430. Next page, Veterans Administration, $850. Veterans Benefits, $60,000. No holds. Library Director, $87,125. I'm sorry, was that a hold? I'm sorry, yes? Okay, thank you. Hold. Library Support Staff, $48,487. Library Expenses, $65,000. Okay, will the person who put the hold on please come to the microphone and explain the hold?
My name's Ed Sharon, 24 Spring Street.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I made a mistake. It was,
Okay, we all do
I
that.
read the wrong line. I thought it went up 27%. and it didn't.
Okay, so you're good?
I'm good.
All right, thank you. So library director, 87,125. Okay, we're good with that section. Local schools, line 700, elementary school costs, $4,624,750. No hold. Regional schools. Regional school assessment, $3,490,183. Debt and interest in the regional schools, $74,364. No holds. Finishes that section. We don't need to look at the total for schools. The last section, line 800, the reserve fund, $175,000. Interest, loan, and refunds, $3,000. Principal and interest, 0. Debt exclusion, 0. Police station debt, $147,000. No holds. Okay, so we made no changes in those amounts. So the total budget that we'll be voting on is $16,179,691, and our town accountant will now read out the breakout for where those funds are coming from. Lisa, do you want to come up here? You're going to have to be loud. Okay, so I'll relay it to you because she needs her computer over there. Go ahead. Oh, wait, we got a microphone coming your way, Lisa. We have the technology. Wonderful thing.
Thank you. Okay, I move the article as written with the following funding sources. General stabilization, $823,340. Capital stabilization, $147,000, which is for the police station debt. Ambulance fund, $300,000 towards EMS salaries. Raise and appropriate, $849,622. Free cash, $59,729 for a total of $16,179,691.
Okay, so that's the total budget. Those are the funding sources. We'll take a vote now, and it'll need to be 2/3 because we're taking from general stabilization. All in favor of the budget and the breakouts for the different sections as read, please raise your cards. Down cards. Opposed? It's unanimous. That's more than 2/3. Thank you very much. That's article can be a long one some years, as you all remember. Okay. Article 5. What do we have for time here? Oh, we got time to go on. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to appropriate or reserve from the Community Preservation estimated annual revenues in the amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administrative expenses, community preservation projects, and other expenses in fiscal year 2027, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation. The appropriations are these. From fiscal year 2027, estimated revenues from the committee administrative expenses, for the committee administrative expenses, $5,000. And then reserves from FY 2027 estimated revenues for historic resources reserve, $10,000. From FY 2027 estimated revenues for community housing reserve, $10,000. From FY 2027 estimated revenues for open space reserve, $10,000. And from FY 2027 estimated revenues for budgeted reserve, $65,000, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion and a second?
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Is there any comment or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 5 as printed in the warrant, please raise your cards. Down cards? Opposed? Unanimous. Article 6, To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $17,000 from the undesignated fund balance of the Community Preservation Fund to be used by the Plympton Recreation Commission as described in an application submitted to the Plympton Community Preservation Committee for the construction and outfitting of a new pickleball court at the town's existing basketball court facility on Parsonage Road. In addition to updates that will allow pickleball to be played atop the existing basketball court, the project also includes restoration of the basketball hoops damaged by vandalism, new landscaping, refurbishment of the parking area, the creation of a small picnicking area, the installation of motion-activated security lights, and anything incidental or related thereto. The project is to be directed and supervised by the members of the Recreation Committee, with reporting for oversight purposes to the Plympton Community Preservation Committee not less than every 2 months or sooner as may be requested, and further that any funds remaining shall be returned to the budgeted reserve of the Community Preservation Fund by vote of the Plympton Community Preservation Committee or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion and a second?
Move the article as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no one coming forward, all in favor of Article 6 as printed in the warrant, please raise your cards. Down. Opposed? It passes by majority. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $39,000 to conduct financial audits for fiscal year 2027 or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of free cash.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So the article's been moved, and instead of raise and appropriate or available funds, this money will come from free cash if it passes. So moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of Article 7 as printed in the warrant or coming from free cash, please raise your cards. Thank you. You're way ahead of me. Way ahead of me. Down cards. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 8. To see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $10,000 to be added to the town buildings and maintenance emergency article as voted pursuant to Article 4 at the June 17, 2020 special town meeting or take any other action relative thereto. Have a motion, please, and a second.
I move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of free cash.
Second.
The article's been moved and seconded with the funding source being free cash. Any discussion? Now the creature was stirring. All in favor of Article 8, please raise your hand. Put your card up. Down, please. Opposed? Majority. Pass. Article 9. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from the Capital Stabilization Fund the sum of $63,199 to make annual lease payments as part of lease purchase programs previously authorized, as shown below, or take any other action relative thereto. And these monies will be going towards the Highway Department truck in the amount of $17,462, Police Vehicles Radios Lease Package, $28,616, and the Highway Department truck number 2, $17,121. Any comment? Questions? All in favor of Article 9 as
I move
print?
the article as printed in the warrant.
I'm sorry.
With a funding source of capital stabilization.
I'm sorry, I didn't wait for that motion. No, it doesn't need to be because it's a special stabilization fund. The article's been moved and seconded, coming from capital stabilization, and the question was, just so you folks know, it can get confusing. It's coming from a stabilization fund, but it's capital stabilization. And a few years ago, the state modified things so that these types of special stabilization funds monies can be taken just with a simple majority. It doesn't need to be 2/3. It's only the general stabilization that needs 2/3. So Article 9 from capital stabilization, all in favor, raise your cards, please. Down cards, opposed? Unanimous. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $28,500 to be added to the Information Technology and Equipment article as voted pursuant to Article 30 at the May 18, 2022 annual town meeting for the purchase and installation of information technology equipment and/or services, including upgrading outdated security software and hardware and equipment, including anything incidental or related thereto, or take any other action relative thereto. May I have a motion?
I move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of free cash.
Second.
Article's been moved and seconded with a funding source of free cash. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your cards. Down cards, opposed? Unanimous. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Capital Stabilization Fund the sum of $200,000 for road construction, resurfacing, and top coating, including the payment of costs incidental or related thereto, or take any other action relative thereto. Motion and second, please.
I move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of capital stabilization.
Second.
Article's been moved and seconded with a funding source of Capital Stabilization Fund. Did our highway surveyor want to speak to this article? No, I thought I was going to have to move that. Well, you got your exercise for tonight, Rob. Any discussion? All in favor of Article 11 with the funding coming from Capital Stabilization? Thank you. Down cards, opposed? Unanimous. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to transfer from the Capital Stabilization Fund the sum of $9,895 for the purchase of a Meteor 87-inch double auger 3 PT blower or a similar snow blower, including the payment and cost incidental or related thereto, or take any other action relative thereto. Can I have a motion, please? And second? Article 12, anybody going to move it?
I move the article as printed in the warrant, and the article specifies capital stabilization.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded as printed in the article, in the warrant, with the funding from Capital Stabilization. Any discussion? Seeing none in favor, please raise your cards. Down cards, opposed. Unanimous. We're getting that Meteor.
All 87 inches of it.
Article 13, to see if the town will vote to accept and expend such sums of money allotted or to be allotted to the town from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 90, or under any other state roadway reimbursement program for the fiscal year 2027, and borrow in anticipation of reimbursement such sums as may be available as the state's share of the cost of work, said Chapter 90, or take any other action relative thereto.
I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Article's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on Chapter 90 money? Seeing no one, all in favor of Article 13 as printed, please, thank you. Down cards, opposed? Unanimous. Oh, no. Okay, majority. Sorry, I didn't see that. Thank you, Town Clerk. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to authorize the police department to enter into a lease purchase agreement in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 21C, for a period in excess of 3 years to lease and purchase and to fully equip a police patrol vehicle as part of the department's replacement schedule, the first year payment on said lease purchase agreement to be made from the police department's vehicles revolving fund as previously authorized, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion?
I move the article as printed in the warrant for a lease purchase.
Second.
Article 14 has been moved and seconded. Because this is a lease purchase, it's going to require a 2/3 vote when we get to it. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of Article 14 as printed, please raise your cards. Down cards. Opposed? Unanimous. Oh, no, it's not unanimous, but I declare 2/3. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $10,000 for fire department grant matching funds or take any other action relative thereto.
I move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of the sale of town properties fund.
Second.
Article 15 has been moved and seconded with the source of the funds coming from the sale of town properties account. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 15, modified as saying that the money is coming from the sale of town property account, please raise your cards. Come on, hold them up there. You had to wait for me to finish. Don't jump me. Okay, great. Down, opposed? Unanimous. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to authorize the fire department to enter into a lease purchase agreement in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 21C, for a period in excess of 3 years to lease and purchase and to fully equip a new Ford 150 or similar vehicle, and to transfer from the Capital Stabilization Fund the sum of $14,000 for the first year payment on said lease purchase agreement, or take any other action relative thereto.
I move the article as printed in the warrant as a lease purchase.
Second.
Article 16 has been moved and seconded, and again, this is a lease purchase, so when we get to the vote, it'll require a 2/3. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 16, please raise your cards. Down cards. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $2,200 for continued bylaw codification and anything incidental or related thereto, or take any other action relative thereto.
I move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of free cash.
Second.
Article 17 has been moved and seconded with the funding source being free cash. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 17, raise your cards, please. Down cards. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $31,400 for the purpose of the fiscal year 2027 real and personal property recertification of the town, or take any other action relative thereto. May I have a motion?
Move the article as printed in the warrant with a funding source of free cash.
Second.
Article 18 has been moved and seconded with a funding source of free cash. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your cards. Down cards. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the general court for special legislation as set forth below, to change the position of Board of Health Administrative Assistant to a position appointed by the Board of Selectmen, to bring the position in line with the appointing authority for staff with similar duties in other departments. Provided, however, that the general court may make clerical or editorial changes of form only to the bill, unless the Board of Selectmen approves amendments to the bill before enactment by the general court, which are within the scope of the general public objectives of the petition, or take any other action relative thereto. The petition for special legislation shall take the following form: an act relative to the Board of Health Administrative Assistant in the town of Plympton. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives in general court assembled, and by the authority of the same as follows. Section 1. Notwithstanding Section 27 of Chapter 111 of the general laws, or any other general or special law, rule, or regulation to the contrary, the position of administrative assistant to the Board of Health in the town of Plympton shall be appointed and may be removed by the Board of Selectmen. The administrative assistant shall have all the powers, perform the duties and be subject to the liabilities and penalties now or hereafter conferred and imposed by law on administrative assistants to boards of health. The Board of Selectmen may establish an employment contract with the administrative assistant, subject to annual appropriation, for salary, fringe benefits, and other conditions of employment, including but not limited to severance pay, reimbursement for expenses incurred in the performance of the duties of office, and conditions of discipline, termination, dismissal, reappointment, and performance standards and leave. Section 2. Upon the effective date of this act, the administrative assistant position appointed by the Board of Health shall be abolished. Notwithstanding the foregoing, if there is an incumbent appointed by the Board of Health on the effective date of this act, they shall continue to hold such office and perform the duties of that office until such time as an administrative assistant is appointed by the Board of Selectmen in accordance with Section 1 of this act. Section 3, this act shall take effect upon its passage. Do I have a motion and a second?
I move the article as printed in the warrant.
Second?
Article has been moved and seconded. Discussion. Please, one at a time, come up to the...
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes.
We're going to let since this is a Selectmen's article, we often let the people who put the article in speak first, so go right ahead.
The purpose of this article is to continue work that began under the prior town administrator and continues under our current town administrator to streamline and consolidate personnel practices and structure within the town. Approximately 10 years ago, we began implementing changes to our structure and our personnel policies to professionalize practices within and across departments in the town. We're looking to establish consistent policies, not limited to, but including job descriptions, benefits, compensation, expectations, performance appraisals, and appeals among employees with similar job functions. We're looking to establish consistent reporting structure for support staff to the town administrator up through the Board of Selectmen. Other towns are doing similar restructuring of their departments as well. Halifax in particular is in the process of restructuring several of their departments. What this act will not do, it's not an attempt by the Board of Selectmen to take over the Board of Health. The Board of Health will continue to review and interview applicants for this position as the position may become available, and they will recommend a candidate to the Board of Selectmen for ultimate appointment, just as occurs in other departments currently in the town. Professionally licensed staff, in other words, the health agent, are not affected by this position because of the unique qualifications that they possess. It's important to notice that no one is losing their job, no jobs are being eliminated, no duties and responsibilities are changing, nothing is eliminated, there is no pay change involved with the passage of this act. It's simply restructuring the reporting structure of people as they perform their duties in the town. This is one of many changes that we hope to make going forward, but because of the unique nature of this position, it does require intervention on our behalf by the legislature, so that is why this is being handled this way this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Sides. Next, please.
Mr. Moderator, through you, Jason Frazier, 66 Maple Street. I appreciate the clarification on the intent of this article, but I stand in opposition of it this evening. Much as I stood in opposition of making our town clerk an appointed position, we've seemed to manage well under the current regulations and standards that we have in town, keeping this position under the guidance of the Board of Health. I do appreciate the clarification on the fact that this was not targeted towards an individual. That made me very concerned when I read the original warrant to know that there's someone in that position currently, and we all know who that is. And I just want to make sure that everyone understands that we as departments do have autonomy and independence, and I would like to see it stay that way unless there's a problem. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. Brad Cronin, 176 County Road, speaking against Article 19. I am the current chair of the Board of Health, but speaking on my own behalf. Article 19 may sound administrative on the surface, but in reality, it represents a major and unnecessary change in local government authority, public health independence, and confidentiality, as well as accountability. It's a bad solution in search of a non-existent problem. There's 5 reasons why this warrant should be rejected. Number 1, the warrant undermines the intent of the Mass Public Health Law and the independence of the Board of Health. The state believes Board of Health employee independence is so important that it's written into state law that employees remain under the purview of the Board of Health. If this change is made, it requires approval by the Mass Legislature and even the governor. Boards of health are under state law intentionally given autonomy because they relegate sensitive matters and often controversial issues involving public health to make difficult decisions based on health and safety without political intervention. Board of Health handles communicable disease investigations, housing complaints, substance abuse matters, mental health concerns, and other confidential health-related info. Residents deserve confidence that this information remains within an independent public health structure when confidentiality is a concern. Number 2, the change would undermine public trust and possibly become political. People are more likely to cooperate with public health investigations and sensitive matters when they trust that information is being handled independently and professionally. Public health enforcement decisions should remain insulated from political pressure and outside influence. Article 19 blurs that separation. Number 3, Article 19 gives the Select Board authority over hiring, contracts, discipline, termination, and compensation for a position historically supervised by the Board of Health. The administrative assistant would work directly for the Board of Health every day while ultimately answering to another political body. If problems arise, who is truly responsible? The Board of Health directing the work or the Select Board controlling the employment relationship? That ambiguity creates governance problems. Number 4, it may expose the town to legal risk and expense. The article abolishes the existing structure and replaces it with a new one. This can create personnel disputes, legal review costs, labor council involvement, implementation complications, and possibly claims from affected employees. If the employee believes the restructuring was targeted, retaliatory, or improperly implemented, the town could face legal review or litigation cost. It could also set a precedent for all other independently elected boards. Most importantly, no compelling operational problem has been publicly identified. Before permanently changing a long-standing governance structure, residents should ask a simple question. What is the problem that we're trying to solve? Good governance depends on checks and balances. Public health decisions should remain independent, professional, confidential, and insulated from politics. Article 19 moves Plympton in the opposite direction. It streamlines nothing, and I don't think Halifax should be used as a beacon of how to run government. I urge you to vote in opposition to this.
Thank you, Mr. Cronin. Next.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Jared Anderson, 45 Elm Street. I'm also on the Board of Health.
Okay.
I share the chair's concerns. It seems to undermine an independent board, and independence is important for what we do. But also, the administrative assistant, we haven't had an issue with titling. We only have one person in that role, but she also performs clerk duties. She works directly for the board preparing minutes. Now we're faced with how do we split this authority, and it just creates ambiguity, and it makes it difficult for us to do our job, and it creates a distraction. Mm-hmm. But also, I think there's going to be costs involved if we have to clarify or defend this new structure that we create. And the board has also voted 3-0 to reject this article, and that's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next.
Good evening. My name is Art Moran, 11 Granville Baker Way in Plympton, and I'm here to speak in opposition to this article. Many years ago, the state legislature developed the overall structure of the Board of Health in all 351 communities in this state, and they wanted them independent, insulate them from outside influence. We deal with, and by the way, I'm still a present member of the Board of Health. I'm a lowly clerk, okay, kind of like Senator Kennedy. Anyway, we deal with a lot of things, and a lot of it falls under the HIPAA laws. You need to protect the residents' information in this community when it comes to things like that. You can't have someone coming in, and I'm not saying anything about this present board, but there will be another board down the road and another board after them and so forth. And we can't guarantee that somebody might not try to lean on someone in that position. And the HIPAA laws protect our privacy. No one can come in and say, I want to see the health, any of the health things for 000 Archibald Street.
Mm-hmm.
So we protected it all through the pandemic, and I know I worked with the town administrator all through the pandemic, and we worked 7 days a week. And we have a good relationship with our administrative assistant, and that administrative assistant worked for nothing. No extra money. We don't have a union, although being a past union president, maybe that's what I'll do when I retire on Monday. I don't know. But that's a possibility. Anyway, we need the independence for the Board of Health to protect it. We tried to protect the community during the pandemic. We alerted the dispatch so that our first responders, police, fire, ambulance, would be notified of a positive address for that unit. No names, nothing. And this did come from the state and Department of Public Health. It was approved at that level. So, but that was to protect everybody. And it worked as a cohesive unit. I know the prior town administrator, and it was 7 days a week from the time we got up in the morning until we went to bed at night. Mm-hmm. And you need to build that esprit de corps to have people work together. And if it's appointed by someone else, it may not be there.
Okay.
And I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moran. Yes, sir.
Through the chairman, my name is Brian Carr from 24 Buttonwood Drive. I want to call attention to the number 27, which is chapter 27 in this article, which is the first 10% of the articles that have been passed in Massachusetts. There's 282 chapters.
Direct it towards me, please.
Yeah, sorry. There's 282 chapters of Massachusetts state law. This is number 27, and it has a deep history. So our ability here to change it, if we want to, goes back 154 years, actually, because the first president of a board was Paul Revere, Boston City Council, 1799.
Please speak to the article. We don't need a history lesson, please.
Okay, I know you don't need a history lesson, but the history of this was 1872 is what Massachusetts gave the cities and towns the rights to do this. Mm-hmm. And the reason was smallpox came in, and they found out small boards can move faster without any political influence, most likely with doctors and health officials in the area that can make smart decisions. Mm-hmm. So for us to overturn 154 years of precedent that was given to us by the first law in the first state to do it in the nation and was then copied, that all cities and towns could do this locally because they can move faster without political oversight that might change the decisions, I think is wrong, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Ethan Stiles. I live at 85 West Street, and I am one of the members of the Plympton Board of Assessors. And I would also like to express my concern about this warrant article on the basis of those of us who are elected to independent boards and committees, those who were elected by the voters as opposed to appointed by an authority like the selectmen. We currently in the assessor's office do have the authority to hire and, if necessary, to terminate the people who work at that office. And we rely upon them because they are the people who are at the townhouse day in and day out dealing with members of the public, whereas our boards often function more as an oversight committee to make sure that they're doing their job. And I would suggest that we, although I do say so with all modesty, are in the best position to determine whether that person or persons are performing their jobs to the level that is required by the town. And therefore, I would suggest that taking the authority to hire and fire away from the people who are elected to oversee that particular portion of town government and put it onto another body, which is not expertise and as many other calls upon their time, volunteer time, I might add, because most of the boards and committees in this town are volunteers who do not get paid and therefore must budget their time that they can devote to town matters. Consequently, I would suggest that that as we are elected boards, we should have the autonomy to make our own decisions as to who serves us. And were the situation, of course, otherwise, and that these boards were not elected by the people, but rather appointed by a governing authority like the Board of Selectmen, then that situation could be reconsidered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stiles. Anyone else would care to speak to this? Yes.
Susan Vetterline, 192 Main Street. As I understand how the article was presented by Nathaniel Sides, the Board of Selectmen are not seeking to take over the policies and the administration of the Board of Health, but rather simply to make an administrative change. People have expressed concern over the Board of Selectmen now having the authority to hire and fire the administrative assistant. But as Nathaniel Sides indicated, the Board of Selectmen will simply ratify choices that the Board of Selectmen have already made. Furthermore, we've seen not only, I'm not going to go into specifics, but we've seen previous people who have served in the townhouse who have previously been elected by the town, and that's been changed to being appointed by the Board of Selectmen. We've seen those people behave in less than professional manners towards the public. And for that reason, I am supporting this movement, because I have seen unprofessional behavior, and I would like to know, and behavior that is not rectified by the boards or seen by the general public.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to comment on that. Again, this is about changing the position. It's not about a specific individual. Any other comments? Seeing none. All in favor of Article 19 as printed in the warrant, please raise your yellow cards. Down cards. Opposed? Does not pass. Okay, at this point, we're 9 minutes late, but that's not too bad. We will recess our annual town meeting and take up the special town meeting. We'll give you a moment to turn your things. And again, please stay for the whole thing. Come on, there's only 2 more left. Okay. I mean, I know we all have our own interests, but we got to do this work as a town, folks. Okay. Special town meeting. To either of the constables or officers of the town of Plympton in the county of Plymouth, greeting in the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You're directed to notify and warn the inhabitants. Town of Plympton qualified to vote, to meet at the Dennett, blah, blah, blah. Article 1. Again, this is for the current fiscal year that ends in June. Article 1. To see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $10,000 to the OPEB account or take any other action relative thereto.
Move the article as printed in the warrant.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Funding source, free cash.
Funding source is free cash. That was part of the motion that wasn't said. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of Article 1 in the special town meeting, please raise your cards. Down cards. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 2. To see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $10,000 to the unemployment line, budget line 30, in fiscal year 2026 budget as voted pursuant to Article 4 at the May 14, 2025 annual town meeting, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion and a second?
I move the article as printed in the warrant, the funding source of free cash.
Second.
Article 2 in the special has been moved and seconded with the funding source being free cash. Any discussion? All in favor of Article 2 of the special, please raise your cards. Down cards. Opposed? Unanimous. That completes our special town meeting. Back to the annual. Article 20. To see if the town will vote to transfer from Capital Stabilization Fund the sum of $35,000 for a limited building assessment of Dennett Elementary School, including assessment of current building systems and overall infrastructure condition and development of an overall infrastructure condition and development of a repair or replacement schedule, including payment of costs of anything incidental or related thereto, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Moderator, Jason Frazier, 66 Maple Street, Chair of the Plympton School Committee. I move Article 20 with the funding source of capital stabilization.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Article 20 has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 20, please raise your cards. Down cards. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 21. To see if the town will vote to adjourn this annual town meeting until 8 a.m. on May 16, 2026, in the Plympton Townhouse at 5 Palmer Road in Plympton, for the sole purpose of conducting the annual town election, and further that this annual town meeting warrant will be dissolved immediately upon the closing of the polls on that date. The polls will open at 8 a.m. and shall be continuously open for voting until 6 p.m. To bring in their ballots for the following town officers: 1 selectman for 3 years, 1 Board of Assessor member for 3 years, 1 Board of Health member for 3 years, 2 constables for 3 years, 2 Finance Committee members for 3 years, 1 Finance Committee member for 1 year, 2 library trustees for 3 years, 1 library trustee for 2 years, 1 planning board member for 5 years, and 2 Plympton School Committee members for 3 years. We have a motion and a second.
Move the article as printed in the warrant. Vote early and often.
And second.
Article 21, without the side comment, has been moved and seconded.
I get it, side comment, very good.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 21, please raise your cards. Down cards. Opposed? Unanimous. Congratulations, we are done for this evening. See you at the polls.